Hello everyone, I am Cindy from Cindy's Creative Cards, and I am going to show you today how to make a card using the More Than Autumn stamp set by Stampin' Up. This was a card that we had planned to make on our virtual paper crafting day, which was last Saturday, but we were unable to do that. So I am going to share it with everyone. This is October the 28th, 2024, and we're going to get started, and I'm going to show you step by step what to do. So hang on and let me switch the camera. Okay, here we are. So here is the stamp set. It's More Than Autumn. I'm going to move this camera over just a tad so you can see. More Than Autumn. And we are going to be using the donut stamp in this particular set along with the donut die. There are so many different stamps and dies and combinations that you can use with this stamp set. Stamp set is just endless. And it's so much fun. We also are going to be using this one, and as you can see, I still have a little bit of the cardstock in here. This is Nothing's Better Than. So let me show you what we're going to make. Here's the card, and it shows 3 different donuts, and on the inside we have Nothing's Better Than Doughnuts. So this is great for anyone who loves donuts and you would like to share that with them. Eating donuts is a great and wonderful, delicious adventure for myself and my family, and we do love it so. So I am going to be sending this to my sister, who really enjoys all the different kinds of donuts that we find at the bakeries in different parts of North Carolina. So we're using this paper, which is actually from this set, the lavender set from Stampin' Up. It is Perennial Lavender designer paper, and it's 12 by 12 inch, and it's gorgeous. But I loved this top check, and I think that, there it is, this top check, and so that was the base that I used for my card. So let's get started making this. And I'm going to put this to the side. Now, we do use several techniques to make this card. So we're going to start out first with just a piece of early espresso cardstock. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm going to score this at 4 1/4. These are your regular sized card measurements. So I'm going to pull this back over. We're going to fold this. We're going to score it and burnish. And then we are going to adhere this piece, a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of this checked top cardstock. So I'm going to use my tape runner, and I'm going to put tape on all sides, a little bit in the middle. I do love to use a little bit more than normal because I don't want my pieces to come off. So here we go. I've got this on. The next step was to put down excuse me, the mat that will go here. But we've got to decorate it first. And the way I did that is by using a flat edge of a clean new eraser. And then I pulled out the 2 ink pads, which was Bubble Bath and Berry Burst. I thought these colors go very well together. They seem to be sort of in the family. And you can see where I've used this because there are little dots. And what we did for this technique is to just put our pencil, the end of our pencil, into the ink pad and then just stamp it all about like this. Now I'm not doing it in any particular pattern. I'm just spacing it out wherever I feel like placing a dot. Now you can see this dot, for instance. It's a little bit lighter, so I'm going to go back and go over that dot just like that. And this one I'm going to do the same thing with. And I think maybe I have all of the berry burst dots that I need. Now I'm going to use this bubble bath, and when I do that, I'm going to clean the end of my eraser. I like to use the Stampin' Up, what do you call it? The Stampin' Up, my mind's gone blank. Anyway, there is a particular item that you use to clean your stamps with, and it does work wonderfully. I just don't have it handy, so I'm using my Kirkland baby wipes. If you do use a baby wipe, you will need to use one that does not leave lint on your stamp, and this particular one does not. So I've cleaned my eraser, and I am going to now put the bubble bath ink dots all over. Now, one thing that I did do is that I did clean it, and I didn't wait for it to dry enough, so it's very light, but you can go back over your dots and make them darker, which is what I'm doing right here. Now, a lot of this is going to be covered up by your donuts, so I'm not going to worry too much about the pattern or how many dots I have down here, the dark versus the light colored ones. I'm just placing it all about. So now that I've gotten that done, the next step is to put this down. And this was cut with the perennial postage dies. And it makes this postage stamp edge, which is really cool. So I'm wanting to do something a little different, and it sort of, when you place it down, it looks like those checks go right in the little holes there. So, but before I do this, we're going to do another technique using this organdy 1/4 inch sheer ribbon. Now, what I'm going to do here is take my Berry Burst, my dark alcohol marker, my Stampin' Blend, and I'm going to turn this white, excuse me, that's the wrong end, the white clear actually ribbon into a Berry Burst ribbon. So all you have to do is just run your ribbon right along the top of it. And now and you can see how I have ink down here. This is a silicone mat that I keep on my work table at all times. And I'm just going to run this ribbon right like this. And I can go back. I can get the edges. Oh, you didn't see that. Okay, let's do this again. I'm just going to run my ribbon right like this with the ink hitting it. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to get the edge there, just like that. I'm just pulling it underneath the brush of this alcohol marker. Now there's one edge right there that I wanted to get. Let me see if there's any other places. It will sort of bleed right into all of it if you just give it time. So now I have these streaks here. The alcohol marker did that, but you can just wipe it right off of a silicone mat. And that's why I love having this large one that I keep on my glass mat at all times, and then I come back and I really clean it later on. So now I have my ribbon, and this is what I want to do with it. I'm going to place it on like this, pull it over, and I'm going to tie it on this side. But I'm first going to put a little bit of tape runner on the back to hold it in place so I can tie the bow. Now this is where I want to position it. So I'm going to, I don't know that I'm going to have, yeah I should. I'm going to bring this around like this. Now what I could do is get a glue dot here, and it would probably make this a little bit easier, but I'm going to try to do it myself like this. And tying bows when I am filming or when somebody is looking at me is the most difficult thing in the world. I'm all thumbs when that happens. So here we go. Now you can tie a bow, or you can do a fake bow, what I call a faux bow, by not putting the actual loops there. But I'm going to leave it like this, and then I'm going to cut these long tails off so they won't be interfering with my donuts. So I'm going to get my little paper snips, Stampin' Up paper snips that are so wonderful. They are very sharp, and they just cut cleanly and crisply every single time. I have never been disappointed with these paper snips, and I just rave about them. I just can't say enough how much I love them. So I am going to clip this off a little bit more. And then what we're going to do is adhere this piece to our card base. Now I'm going to move this camera just a bit because I don't think you're able to see everything the way I'd like for you to. So I'm going to put tape runner here, and normally I would use some seal, but I do not have that with me at the moment. I have run out, so I have some backup that I am using. So here we go. Here's my ribbon. Now I am ready to put my donuts on. So I need to get those ready. That little bow is driving me crazy because it's sticking up in the air everywhere, and I don't want it to. Okay, so then this one, it looks like, needs to be cut off. All right, so I'm going to place my card over to the side, and now we're going to do these 3 donuts. Okay, so I have a sheet here, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I am going to stamp my donuts. I'm saving this for my orc jar. I put all of my ribbon in a jar, and I can go back and see all the cool ribbons and twine that I've used for my projects. So the stamp set, as you can see, has been well loved. I'm going to pull out the donut and put this back in. I love using this particular stamp set because it reminds me so much of the apple orchards where my family and I used to visit when we lived in the western part of North Carolina before Helene came through. And we would go and get spiced donuts every fall. It was a tradition. I'm using early espresso ink, and I'm going to stamp my donuts, making sure that I got plenty of room here. That one didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped. There we go. So now I'm going to be using these 3 donuts. I'm going to color the first one, Bubble Bath. And it is going to be, that's actually Flirty Flamingo. Where's my Bubble Bath? Here we go. This is the light one. And that's the light flamingo. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. I am going to color the icing on this one all around. Now I'm not going to do anything with the little sprinkle marks that represents the sprinkles on the donut icing. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave them as they are. Everyone will get the full effect of that. They'll know what that is. So there's my Bubble Bath one, and then I'm going to use my Berry Burst, and I'm going to color another one. I had to make sure this was the light one because it's so dark. So I've already shown you 2 techniques while we were making this card. And I'm about to show you another one once I get this one done. It's hard to get in all these little corners and not go out of the lines when I'm talking. So here's the other thing. If you have a color and it's a little lighter than you want, you can take your color lifter and you can go back over it. And I'm just sort of going to swirl here because I don't want it to be the very same color. I want it to have some variation in there to look like real icing. So now it's a little bit lighter in places, and I like that better. And the other one, I am going to leave it as it is. Now, I did take my Berry Burst on this one because it was white, and I put a little bit of mark over each of these little berries just to liven it up a bit. Now you can do this with the other ones as well if you chose to, but I decided just to do it on my white one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, let me find my tray. Here it is. I'm going to use my embossing powder. I'm going to lay this in my tray, and I'm going to get my clear embossing powder, which I have put in this little tub, actually, if you want to call it that. And I use a little tool that's actually a jewelry tool that has tweezers at the end and a little scoop here. My friend gave me this, but I can't use that yet. I have my Versamark pen. Stampin' Up! Does not sell the Versamark pens anymore, but you can get it from Amazon or any craft store. And what I'm going to do, I actually need to take this out, is I am going to go over the icing. Now, if I had used the Versamark pad and stamped this, then I would have gotten Versamark on the entire donut. And I don't want that. I want it just on my icing for each one. And I want to make sure I get a good coverage because that's going to determine where the glaze is shiny, where the embossing powder will be. Now over here I'm still going to go over the white because I want to make it clear too. And the Versamark will not make this ink smear. It actually takes a little bit of the color and puts it around, but it doesn't make the actual marks really smear. Okay, so I haven't colored the brown part, and I should have done that, but I will do it right after we do this. So I'm going to put my embossing powder over this. I want to give a very good layer. I'm going to coat it really well. And then what I'm going to do is sort of let this go back and forth like this to make sure it got over it. I'm going to tap it off and thump it. And now I'm going to use my heat tool. So I'm going to slide this to the side, and I'm going to bring my heat tool in. Now this is going to go, I'm going to have it on low, and so you can hear this, I'm sure, but you'll be able to see what happens. I'm going to use the tweezer end of this tool to hold my paper. So I'm going to pull this up so you can see it when it starts to melt. So I'm going to turn it up on high. You're not going to be able to hear me talk. Okay, so it did melt it, but there's not as much on it as I would like for there to be. So I'm going to wait just a second. I'm going to let this cool, and I'm going to go over it one more time. And I want to have a good coverage once again. And I probably need to buy another one of these things. I've had it for a very long time, so it may be that I am running out of Versamark. Sometimes, though, the second coat will give you the color that you're looking for. Or in this case, not color, I just want it to be clear. And I'm really thinking that I need to buy another one of these pens, because I have really used it. And I'm going to get this end. Oh dear, no I'm not. Let's go back to this end and wipe that off. Okay, so I can see here where it, I didn't get it as covered as much as I had hoped. And it may be drying too, because I do have some air going on in here. Okay, so let's try this one more time. And this time, I'm just going to scoop this up like this. Go over it. I'm going to tap it. See, there's still some on it. I'm going to thump it. Now, if you needed to, you could get a brush. So you could brush it off of the edges here. So we're going to try again and see what happens. So here it goes, the heat tool. Now it's doing it. Now I have glazed glossy donuts. And it just took a second coat. Now I'm going to make sure that I have gotten all the powder off. And I'm going to color in, which it would have been best to do this first. But I was excited about getting the glaze on here. So now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to... But the one thing about this is that you can't really go into your glaze now, because that clear embossing powder is there to prevent you from doing that. So that's a positive. One good reason to do this in advance. I mean afterwards, not in advance. So is your choice, actually, which way you want to go. But I think maybe I'm going to do it this way next time, because it is so much easier. And going along these little tiny narrow slivers is not the easiest thing in the world, especially when your hands won't shake. But it's so much easier, truly. I am very surprised at how much easier it is to do it. And that's because it's raised up, it's clear. Now, the one thing that I am thinking of, it is good to die cut this before you actually glaze it. That's another way of doing this, to make sure that you don't get your glaze messed up. So we're going to give it a whirl here with the die, the donut die. And I am going to find which side. Now, there is a definite side. There is a pointed, not pointed, but a knobby side. And it fits just perfectly around that donut. But you got to get the sides matched. So what I'm going to do now is use my Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. Which, if you're careful with it, you can lay it down. And it will not stick to your, well, it'll stick enough to hold it in place, but it's not going to stick and tear your paper unless you're rough with it. And you do press it down too hard. So I'm going to put this in like this. And I am going to run this through. I love my little mini. It is always here ready for me to go. So here's one. I'm now going to find where this one goes. Is this the right way? Yep, that's it. I think. I'm not sure. Let's try it this way. I think that might be it. Yep, that's a little better. So I'm going to pull it back over here. Now, with this little mini, oftentimes, if you try to run this where it is straight and even, let me even pull this up higher. Maybe if you can see that. If you try to push the plate straight in, it's hard. See, it's hard for me to get it going. But if I put it at a slight angle, it will catch and run through. The other thing that is really important when you're using it, and this is true for any machine, is that you don't want to put the piece that your die, the thing that you are cutting out, right at the top, the edge that goes in first. It will not grab it because it's going to have to go over that die, and it's very difficult for the little machine to do that. So I'm going to push it down. I will put it at an angle, and it runs right through. Okay, so now I have my third donut, and the glaze is shining, and I am happy with that. So I'm going to put this back in my die set so I won't lose it, because I do have a tendency to do that with my dies. Magnetic sheets really help with that. Okay, so now I'm going to put my mini in the little tape. I save it. You can use this tape over and over again. I just put it on the top of my handle so I have it for next time. So I am going to I use a paintbrush to just brush any excess embossing powder that may have gotten on my mat off, so I can work without it getting on things. So here's my card base. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these and figure out your placement, and I'm going to put that one there, this one here. I think I'm going to do it differently than I did. I don't want to do that. I want to do this like that, because I want this will balance this color. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to put just the regular ones. If I can find where the opening is. And I'm going to put one on the top and one on the bottom of each donut to go over that ribbon. So, I'll put one here. And if you position it carefully, it won't show from the front. Okay, there's one. And I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool and use the pointed end, and I'm going to pull this off. This is one of the best ideas for using that Take Your Pick tool. There's many, but that's one of the good ones. So I'm going to slide that over, and I'm going to put this down right here. Then I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to put those dimensionals on either side, and you can't see what I'm doing. I'm sorry. And I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to place this one down. And then I have this one. So I'm going to put my dimensionals very carefully. So now I'm going to get the top of them off, the little paper off, and I'm going to, oh, I didn't get that one. Okay, I'm going to now put this one down. So here we go. And it's about like that, and it's going to tuck right up underneath that bow there. Okay, so now we have our 3 donuts, and actually, I think I can pull this up and reposition it because I haven't left it for a very long period of time. I can do that. Now, if I had left that for a little bit, it would not have done that. So I just wanted to reposition. I didn't like that they were so far apart. So there we go. Now, there's the front of our card. And you know, when I'm looking at this, I see that I would really like to have some more of those dots. So I'm going to get my berry burst, and I'm going to put a couple more dots here. I didn't put as many like out on the edge. And as you can see, I'm just randomly placing them. And I'm going to put a few more. I'll put one right in here. I'm going to add one right there. Maybe one over here. And I'm going to wipe this off and get it clean and put that to the side. And I'm going to bring this back in. And I'm going to put a few more random berry burst dots. Let's see. One over here. One there. There. I think I'm liking that better. Okay. All right, I needed to fill that up. We made our own DSP. Okay, so now let's talk about the inside. I use that same perennial postage stamp set. Let me see if I have it here. Yes, right here. It is the perennial postage, and it has all these beautiful sayings. I mean, they're very nice. And then this die set. Let me pull this out and show it to you. And it has all these wonderful rectangular pieces cut with that pattern. And it even has a postage stamp. I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, I cut this one 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So I'm going to take that off. Now, if you look in here, I use my blending brush to color this. This is the next technique. We've already done 2 or 3. We used the pencil eraser to make these dots. We colored our ribbon. And now we're going to use this technique where you use a blending brush. And I need to find the one. Okay, this one is in the red family, but it'll work. And I'm going to use this ink. Now, I may have to use the other if it's too, this is the Bubble Bath. If it's too light, I may go back and get some of the darker one. But what I need here is a scrap sheet of paper. I'm going to put this on it, and I'm going to swirl, and this will redistribute the ink as well by swirling. I'm going to start here because I don't want a blob to get on my paper, and I just want to do a little bit around. I don't want to cover the whole thing. I just want a little bit right here, and swirl it around. And I don't care that it is darker in some areas than of the other areas, because I'm not trying to make it uniform. I just want to add some color. Now, that color is going to complement the Nothing's Better Than die that's been cut. I need to find my envelope, my papers. Okay, maybe I did not do that. Okay, so we're going to cut that. Let me put everything to the side here. We're going to be using some early espresso cardstock. So I'm just pulling out a scrap, and I have lots of them here. And I keep my scraps in a little envelope. It's one of these die or embossing Avery L envelopes. And I put all my scraps in this and then slide this right inside of my cardstock plastic holder. And so I always have scraps with the color cardstock that I need. So I'm going to pull out one of those. And this is some that is bigger scraps that I had used for a project, and I wanted to make sure that I kept them in that separate. So I've got my cardstock. I'm going to bring back my mini, and I'm going to get the Nothing's Better Than long die set. Here we go. Nothing's Better Than. And I'm going to get my take your pick tool and poke out that little bit of blue right there. Okay, I'm going to place this down. And because I've got plenty of paper here, and I'm not worried about it staying in perfectly in that particular spot, I'm not going to worry about the tape. But then I'm going to run this through. And now I have this cut out. Like, here it is. Now, I do need to poke out that, and I need to poke out the middle of the B. And then I think everything's good. Okay, so put this back to the side. I'm going to put this actually in my metal tray over there. I'm going to pull this back in because I'm going to be putting this on it in just a moment. I'm going to use my fine tip glue . It's coming out pretty freely. Now I do have the fine tip applicator from Stampin' Up, which I should have gotten. It would have been better. I don't use the green glue, although it's wonderful glue. But I don't use that because my hands react to it. I have an allergic reaction with it. I don't know why. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the stamp Doughnuts, this stamp right here, and I'm going to stamp that underneath. So I'm going to place this down. And I'm going to use the Early Espresso ink for this. I'm going to get my Stampin' Pierce mat. And I'm going to put this on it. And get my Early Espresso ink right here. Slide this over. I'm going to load this stamp up. Now, I always like to try and make sure, yep, that it's going to do what I want it to do. So I'm going to put this, see, right there. Okay, and there we go. Now, I'm now going to adhere that to the inside of my card. By putting some adhesive on it. And putting this right inside like that. Now, we have our card made, and now we need to get our envelope ready. All envelopes should be decorated. That is what we say in our group. You don't want to send a naked envelope. So you could stamp a donut here on the front, but I often like to take DSP that matches, and this top check color does. This is 2 1/4 by 6. It all depends on the size of your envelope flap as to the size that strip you'll need. But I put my ink right on my envelope flap. I get as close to that fold as I can without going over, because you don't want this to go onto the front of your card. And then I just lay this down right along that fold, as close as I can get without going over. Turn it over, and then I'm going to use my larger scissors here. Whoops. I'm going to use my larger scissors here, and I am just going to trim the excess off of the envelope flap. And going around that curve. Okay, so there is the envelope flap all ready to go, and our card. So it's ready for me to send to my sister. All I have to do is sign it and put a stamp on it and send it on its way. Wouldn't it be cool if I could use that stamp that's in the stamp set for the postage? That would be pretty cool, but I'm afraid I can't. So I want to say that I'm really excited that I got to share this with you. Let me switch my camera now. I hope that you enjoyed seeing this made and that you can use the video to make it yourself. It's really easy to do. It's a lot of fun to do, and I encourage you to experiment with this stamps and die bundle. It is just so much fun, and like I said, the possibilities are endless with what you can do with it. So I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for watching. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, please hit that button, and then whenever I add a new one, the bell should ring and notify you. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.